the Commissionaires. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
So is this a new job for you?
It's a new role, yeah. I've been working with Commissionaires now for 6 months, and they wanted me to stick around, so we came to agreements.
Okay.
And, great
so
organization
they had been a client, basically, and now you're doing a little more with them.
Yeah, so it's very interesting being next to Sherry Lynn right now because it's a common client.
They've been our client for almost 10 years now.
Wow. Big local organization.
Yes, very big.
It's funny because, but they have a big presence in Ottawa, is what I'm saying. They when you see the list of the largest companies in Ottawa, they're often on the list, and it's not one that immediately comes to mind for people when they're thinking about Shopify or Canada Post or that kind of thing. So.
And was recently named on the Forbes list of best employers.
Okay.
My work here is done.
All right. We were just chatting before the news about Prince Philip being in hospital today with an infection. And before we get to our questions today, I think it's worth talking about this transition that's happening now with the royal family, because this next chapter, one that most of us have, almost, I don't know what the percentage is, but the vast majority of Canadians, the vast majority of British, have never lived under a different monarch. And that's about to change at some point in the not too distant future. The Queen might live for another 10 years, maybe, another 15 years, who knows? But she's not going to live for another 40 years. So we are in the final phase of this particular monarchy, and there's going to be some change that happens, and it's going to be a lot different for people. And an example of that is the fact that it is Prince Charles and Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, who are coming to Canada, to Ottawa for July the 1st, not the Queen.
So, well, I'm a British passport holder, so I love the royal family, and I think that this is like a natural progression. I mean, it's not like Charles is in his short pants still. He's an old man, and he's well recognized, and he's been groomed to this since the day he was born. And so I think the transition will happen over time, a little at a time. As we see today, there was Charles that was in the House of Commons with the Queen for the throne speech, and we'll just see him filling her shoes more and more often until we're used to it's being him.
Yeah, and I bet we're going to see a lot more of William and Catherine as well, because they are the ones everybody is excited to see. They're younger, they're more dynamic, and if you're thinking about this from a marketing perspective, and you're thinking about Charles and Camilla, who will be likely in their 70s when Charles becomes king, then you want to have a little pizzazz still, then you put William and Catherine and their kids front and center.
Well, and Harry is high profile, and we'll see him later on this year in the Invictus Games. So it's a big year for the royal family, because William and Kate and Harry have really started to re-energize the Canadian public into the monarchy.
Yeah. What are your plans for Canada Day? What are you planning to do? Not doing a whole lot?
I don't know. I kind of a mixed bag. We saw what was going on in Kingston. We thought we'd go there. We have family visiting for Canada Day weekend here in Ottawa, so it seems hard to go away. So it's kind of like the big party you don't want to miss, and it's also the crowd you can avoid, right? It's kind of the worst of both worlds.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's like that old Yogi Berra line about nobody goes to that restaurant anymore because it's too crowded. And I hear from all these people about how I'm not sure if I want to go downtown on Canada Day because it's going to be so busy. But then who are all the people who are actually going and making it busy? Because obviously there will be tens of thousands of people downtown on Canada Day.
Probably hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be backyard barbecue along the Rideau, and then over to Barrhaven to see the fireworks. Okay.
Because Parliament Hill is not the only place where there are celebrations in the National Capital Region and where there are fireworks as well. Yeah, I've been to some of the other fireworks over the years, and it can be just as fun.
Let's hope for good weather at least, so that the fireworks can happen. Remember, 2001, I think the fireworks didn't happen because of a high windstorm and frigid temperatures.
Yeah. Was it that long ago?
I think, it seems like yesterday. I almost said 2010, but I think it was actually 2001. It was the year our second daughter was born.
Okay, because I was there that night, and what I found amazing about it is everybody just turned and walked away, and you had thousands of people in downtown Ottawa who were there to see the fireworks, and they were told they're not going to happen, and it was kind of like, okay, and everybody just went home.
Well, we are polite.
We are. We are. All right, let's get to today's questions. After seeing the latest poll results, what do you think is the most likely outcome of the next Ontario provincial election? Is it A, a Liberal government, B, a progressive Conservative government, or C, an NDP government?
I say that the only poll you can trust is the one on Election Day, as Theresa May just learned, because they were predicting a landslide victory for her, and now she's fighting for her life over there. So the Sherry Lynn prediction is minority Liberal government. Mrs. Wynne's spending money. She's throwing it out by bucket loads, left, right, and center, trying to shore up her following. And I feel the two opposing leaders really don't have the profile that would take them into forming a government.
Okay, so a Liberal minority government, even though the poll that we just saw, I know lots can change, so I'm not...
But it can change by 5 o'clock tonight. Like
sure,
if Patrick Brown can get to the
saw,
polls this afternoon, he's in.
Yeah, the poll we just saw from Forum Research showed the Liberals in third place with the prospect of winning 9 seats in the legislature out of 122.
Well, and we've seen depletions before. We've seen this in the past, but especially in the last few years, what we've seen is on a day-to-day basis, the polls can move almost double digits. And so, my joke that I kind of squeaked in there, and I was saying at the office today, is if Patrick Brown can get the election to happen today, he's got a majority government. But, there's a long runway ahead of us.
Yes.
And a lot can happen between now and then. One of the big things I think the NDP is going to suffer from is what's going on in BC and Alberta, and I think that's going to color the NDP across the country. So they might enjoy good numbers now, but I think once it gets close to the election, they'll be hard-pressed to get beyond third party.
But do you not think there is a sufficient appetite for change, as there was in the last federal election, that it's going to be hard for Kathleen Wynne to overcome that to come back from behind when you've been in power for 13 or 14 years is a big challenge?
Well, I think if you look at what Sherry Lynn just said, you look at what's going on in BC and Alberta in the last few years, where you have an NDP government in Alberta, and then you had a very thin minority government in BC. Probably a minority Liberal government is a reasonable prediction. But we won't know until
so
the day.
Is that, if you had to pick right now, A, B, or C, what would you be picking?
You're trying to get the answer to me. Yeah. I guess I would have to agree with Sherry Lynn on that one.
Wow. Predicting a Liberal government in the next provincial election.
It could be a razor-thin minority, though. It could be very tight.
All right. What does the result of the special election in Georgia demonstrate about the state of American politics? A, despite the efforts of the Democrats, Donald Trump is still winning. B, the narrow margin of victory shows Trump is hurting the Republican brand. C, too much is being read into one vote. Or D, there's way too much money in the system.
I go with D.
$50 million was spent on that one election, which, as I pointed out earlier, is more than all of the candidates in the last Canadian federal election across the country in 338 ridings spent. Not all combined. The candidates for one party, all of the candidates for all of the parties spent less than was spent in this one congressional district in this special election this last night.
Shocking.
Yeah. So what do you say?
Well, I say C. I think it's only one vote, and just reference our previous conversation about what's happening in Ontario. It doesn't really mean anything. It's only one vote. It's only one.
It's a moment in time. Like, to me, politics these days really just seems like moment to moment. You can never be too certain of the future.
I think, I'm going to say that one of the things it shows, it shows many things, obviously, but one of the things it shows, I think, is A, that despite the efforts of the Democrats, Donald Trump is still winning, meaning that it is going to be harder for the Democrats to beat Republicans in the midterm elections and to beat Donald Trump 3.5 years from now than they think it's going to be, or than many people think it's going to be, because there is still a base of support for Donald Trump. And despite all of the coverage of all of the things that have gone wrong in the last 5 months that he's been president, there was still a bunch of people in Georgia who were willing to vote Republican.
And so it's not going to be...
Yeah, it's not going to be as easy to beat Republicans, including Donald Trump, as some people think it is.
It will depend on who they choose as their presidential candidate.
The Democrats.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it will depend on that. But the idea that he's off to this disastrous start, and that's it's going to be a slam dunk for the Democrats to win the midterms and to win the White House in the next election, I don't think it's going to be that simple. I think America is still very divided, and even though there are all kinds of people pointing out Donald Trump's mistakes right now, there are lots of people who still support him.
Well, the Republicans are doing a lot of work on the Hill, right? They're advancing their agenda, and they are bringing forth the reforms that they want to do. We're not hearing any of that. All we're hearing is the saber rattling and the noise and the confusion and the scandal. We're not hearing about the real hard news stories about what's being done up on the Hill.
Yeah. And there's a vacuum in the Democratic side. We're not hearing names specifically. It's not like there's a champion of the Democratic cause right now who has influence over the process. So we used to hear Paul Ryan's name all the time when Barack Obama was in power. Now Donald Trump's in power, and nobody's really stepped in to replace Hillary and be that voice.
Yeah, we'll see who that is. Lots of time, of course, before the next election. It's only Donald Trump has been president 5 months plus 1 day. Yesterday
that's it?
It seems like a long time.
Yesterday was June the 20th. He was sworn in on January the 20th. So it's 5 months ago yesterday that he was inaugurated as president. That's how short a time it has been, which is crazy.
Well, we talked about this last time. I think he's resilient. I think that despite everything that he does, and despite the opinions people have of him that are negative, he might soldier through this entire presidency, and then, as you noted, he'll run to win.
We'll take a quick break on the Power Lunch. We have another question about Donald Trump coming up, about the tapes. Also, we'll talk about Uber and the recent workplace controversies and whether or not they're affecting the likelihood of people using the service. And we will have more on the sour toe cocktail in Dawson City, Yukon. The toe is missing, but the legend continues. We'll talk more about that coming up on the Power Lunch.
There's always more to the story. Ottawa Today with Mark Sutcliffe. We'll be right back on 1310 News and Rogers TV.
Drop dead gorgeous. Oh my God, you've got the look.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Youth substance abuse is an issue in Ottawa. Almost anything can be laced with fentanyl. We're seeing people overdosing on these substances, and people don't know that fentanyl is in the substances they're taking. United Way is a funder of Project STEP. We work with Project STEP by putting our counselors inside the high schools and the elementary schools, doing counseling with the youth who might be abusing or using substances.
Support Project STEP in the fight against fentanyl. Visit project-step.ca/donate.
I'm Dylan Black from Daytime Ottawa, and this is what's happening. The Ottawa International Jazz Festival is the premier music event to take place in downtown Ottawa and runs for 10 days at Confederation Park, starting on June 22nd. The festival continues to present the finest musicians from across Canada and around the world. Come celebrate Canada's birthday with the biggest, time-trippiest, way-back throwback party in Ottawa. The Nature Nocturne 150 Throwback Special will feature groovy tunes, surprises, and more Canadiana than you can shake a prehistoric beaver at. Celebrate all that is Canada at Dominion Day with amazing food from local chefs, extremely Canadian games, music from Kathleen Edwards, Amos the Transparent, and more. There's also local craft beer. Visit dominionday.ca for more info.
My name is Heather Bracken, and I'm a volunteer. I'm on the senior end, I'll call it, and to be able to work with 20-somethings and 30-somethings and whatever it's great. I think it helps to keep you young. My opinion, the most important thing is to give back to the community, but I guess because I have so much fun with it, it doesn't feel like giving, it's more like receiving.
For mouth-watering inspirations for your next gathering? Ottawa's own Margaret Dickinson has what you need. Picture-perfect entertaining on Margaret's Table, Tuesdays at 7.
Welcome back to the Power Lunch on 1310 News. Time for another bite into the big topics of the day.
Our guests on the Power Lunch today are Sherilyn Starkey, president of Thornley Fallis, and Mark Blevis, who is director of public affairs and marketing for the Commissionaires. And let's get back to our questions, and let's get back to Donald Trump. What will Donald Trump reveal about recordings of his conversations with James Comey? Remember, he said 12 days ago that very soon he would have something to say about whether there were recordings or not, and that the media would be very disappointed with what he said. I'm not sure if that means they'll be disappointed that there are recordings or disappointed that there are not recordings. But I'm curious to know your opinions on this. So is it A, there are tapes and they prove Trump didn't obstruct justice? B, there are tapes but they don't tell us anything we don't already know? Or C, there are no tapes?
I feel like we should be buzzing in. I think there's no tapes. I think he's calling a bluff, and Donald Trump is famous for creating news where no news exists, and certainly if there are tapes, which I don't believe there are, a creative editor can fix these things up so he looks good, because I don't think he'll release anything that makes him look bad.
Yeah, and I think if there were tapes, they would have been released by now.
Yeah, exactly.
Why is he sitting on them? What do you think?
Absolutely. They want this story over, right? They want to put this past them so that they can go on and move on and do the work that they want to do. They certainly don't want to encourage having the story hanging over his head. Why he alluded to forward tape.
But just a second, Sherilyn. That implies that there is some clever strategy behind all of this.
That's what I was just going to say.
Why
he said it in the first place with this big foreboding foreshadowing of a cataclysmic moment. I just think that's him all over, right? He just does stuff on instinct. He doesn't think things through. So...
Yeah, and whether you like Donald Trump or not, whether you support Donald Trump or not, it is hard to argue with the idea that he, to a large extent, makes it up as he goes along.
And the delay, I think, is him fighting with his staffers. They're saying, why did you say that? We've got nothing to release. And he's, oh, come on, let's drag this out. So I think that the delay is strictly the battle.
But there is a tendency to sort of apply normal thinking, normal political thinking to the framework of what's going on in the White House right now, and it just doesn't apply right now.
Well, if
all the rules are out the window.
If it did apply, I would suggest that this might be shiny object syndrome, where they're like, look over here at this while we're doing the Obamacare dismantle and replace. But I don't think he's that clever.
Okay. Let's talk about Uber. How have Uber's recent workplace controversies affected your likelihood of using the service? A, I intend to boycott Uber until it demonstrates working conditions have improved. B, I like the service and will continue to use it despite the issues. Or C, I don't use Uber, so this doesn't affect me.
So I took 5 Ubers yesterday.
5?
Yes, I use a lot of Ubers. So
you're definitely B.
Well, what I think is that myself as well as other people will go for the lowest cost alternative, and they don't, they might care a little bit about this stuff, but when it hits them in their back pocket, they're going to go for the cheapest, best service. And, the cheapest, best service in town. And yesterday I was in Toronto. I was running around in all these Ubers. It's the Uber service. That said, if a third option came into the market, a competitor to Uber, another ride-sharing company that didn't have all this kind of reputational damage, I think for sure a lot of people would hop over to a more reputable brand than Uber.
Yeah, and I think that's the big question is, 10 years from now, is Uber going to be this powerhouse technology company that not only has the ride-sharing thing going on, but is in a part of the advent of the driverless car? Because that's where they're going with this, is to take the drivers out of the equation, and then they make more money. Or are they going to be the organization that kind of broke the barriers to this sort of service existing, but never reaped any of the profits from it, and other people came in and took over, and they just kind of knocked down all the walls with all of their, battles with city councils and other governments, and someone else actually reaps the reward of that?
Well, I think it's pretty interesting that Sherilyn just said that if there was another competitor to Uber, and there is, but don't ask me the name. I can't remember their name right now.
Well, there's Lyft,
Lyft,
right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lyft.
They're not in Ottawa, though.
Yeah.
No, they're not, but they are a competitor, and they operate in some cities.
And there are others, too. There's one that's...
So you're in front of the computer. That's no fair.
Yeah, but isn't there one that's... there's one that's for women only, too.
Oh,
right?
I've heard of that one, yeah. So there are competitors.
Yeah.
So Uber is the big hairy gorilla in the room, if you want to call it that. I use Uber, and I think that what's going well for Uber right now is Travis Kalanick, despite the fact that it's being spun, is no longer the CEO. They've cleaned house at the leadership level, and there's an opportunity for them to change the culture with new leadership and change the story. Anytime there's a bad story, if you take decisive action and quick action, and you're public with it, then you can gain some positive coverage on the heels of bad. And I think that Uber has that chance now. The question is, what will they do and how quickly?
Yeah, and I use Uber a lot as well, and I'm a fan of the service. I'm not going to say anything about their corporate tactics because I don't work there, and I'm not saying that means I shouldn't have an opinion about it, but I don't know enough about it. But I'm just describing the fact that I think it's a great service that works. It's more affordable, it's more efficient, it's better use of technology, it's better customer service. There's many, many things I like about it. What I find amazing about this whole thing, though, is that if Uber had come to various city councils across North America and said, hello, we have this new service, we think it's really great, we want to introduce it, we want you to regulate it in advance of us coming into the marketplace, the answer would have been absolutely not in most cases. They would have not gotten anywhere. The only way that they could do what they did was to be the kind of company that broke the rules.
Be the Napster.
Yeah. They basically forced their way into the marketplace, got people like me and you to use it, want it, demand it, so that city councils had no choice but to allow it. So if this had been a different kind of company with a different culture, there would be no ride-sharing services right now. So it's sort of it's kind of part of the story of Uber that they were disruptive, that they broke the rules.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that means that justifies the culture within the company in terms of sexual harassment and so on. But if you take out of Uber the element of them being a disruptive force and bending and breaking some rules, then there is no ride-sharing service in Ottawa right now. The only way that was going to happen was for them to force their way into the market effectively illegally.
I think they are at risk of becoming like what Netscape is to browsers, Uber will be to ride sharing if they don't sort out their corporate house and treat their staff members and their drivers in a different manner than they have the reputation for doing. So there will be other competitors that will come into the market that will get that stuff right.
Yeah, and the driverless car will change everything.
Yes.
Would you rather drink the sour toe cocktail in Dawson City, Yukon, do the edge walk around the CN Tower, or appear on Bachelor in Paradise, which is resuming its shooting after determining that there was no sexual harassment taking place there? The edge walk was done by a 97-year-old man celebrating his birthday. Yeah. The sour toe cocktail, I told people about this earlier, but this is a drink in Dawson City, Yukon, where they actually put a human toe in the glass. It's a shot of whiskey. They put a preserved human toe in the glass. You drink it. The toe has to touch your lips, and you get a certificate for that. Which would you rather do? You have to pick one.
I guess I would do the edge walk because it's the least revolting of all the three options.
That's too scary for me. I'm going to the Yukon.
Okay. You would do the drink.
Oh, yeah. I would love to go up there and do the whole Klondike thing, and I've never been to that part of Canada, and if I had to take a drink of a nasty drink, well, I've been known to be fond of a drink once or twice anyway, so I think I'd take the risk.
Now, would you put the certificate on your wall?
Oh, no, probably not.
Yeah, and the good news, I guess, is the toe is missing, so it's a safe option to pick, I suppose, at the moment.
Yeah, I think they have backup toes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are real, but they've been preserved, and,
it's
thousands of people have done it. It's gross, but it's been done. All right, Sherilyn, Mark, thank you very much for being on the Power Lunch.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Sherilyn Starkey and Mark Blevis. Coming up, we're going to talk to reporter Judy Trin, whose family is now being featured in a new Heritage Minute.
You're listening to Ottawa Today with Mark Sutcliffe on 1310 News and Rogers TV. Mark will be right back.
Ottawa Fury FC Spectacular!
Celebrate Ottawa is a collection of stories for, by, and about the people, places, and rich history that make Ottawa such a vibrant place to call home. Tune in Sunday